Good morning, everyone. I'm a little sleepy today, so I'm not sure how easy it'll be to hear me. Just trying to get everything set up. Don't mind me, I'll start painting very soon. I just gotta get the last few things set up. Oop, Zeus is distressed. He just realized that I don't have my door open. And Chew just realized I don't have my door open. Okay, give me just a moment. I'm going to let a cat out and a dog in, and then we will start. Okay, I am back. I have a lot of work to do today, but I am going to try to keep it relatively simple. Now I'm just trying to figure out my guiding lines on how I want the eye to flow across the page. My lead is super short. This is my favorite pencil. I love this pencil. But when you're swapping the lid out, it takes a little while. There's no other pencil I like more than this one. Even other brands that are similar just don't quite do it for me. Okay, so if you saw me drawing on the orcas yesterday, what I do is I start on one side, fill a little, go the other side, fill a little, back and forth, so that they flow evenly together. So today I'm starting with this side. I don't like how that shape came out. Ooh, is my eraser gone? It's gonna be bad. I was working last night and I probably chucked it somewhere random. Okay, well, looks like this bird is just going to have to be derpy. It's okay. When in doubt, run with it. Okay, so over here I want my tree-like shape to happen. I'm just kind of wiggling my pencil to give it random little shapes and patterns. That's how we show that there are leaves without having to draw every single individual leaf. Just wiggle our pencils. I've got a little mark here on the board, so I've planned it out to put the mark underneath the solid painted area. Let's see, now I'm going to do some more wiggling. Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. goal here is I'm starting to push out the birds, but I want to keep little white areas where the leaves are broken up and light comes in. So I'm trying to make sure that when I do my leaves, I leave myself some nice white area to get the shapes in. Like there's a little white area here. Oh, this is going to be one white area. You can throw in a couple here and there in your solid space. The goal here is to have the leaves merge into birds. So we're going to work on that. Sometimes it's easier to flip a drawing so you can see the flow of it. In this case, I'm flipping it so that I can get an idea of where the body goes. Wow, my message thing is loud. Where I want the body of these birds to go, so that I can kind of slowly have them break apart. I have all their bodies going roughly in the same direction. There's just little ovals, not a big deal. Now what I'm seeing is that I'm breaking it apart loose a little bit too fast. So I'm going to go back through and add some more birdies here and there, because I don't want them to actually come apart until about this area. I think I'm going to need to find my eraser because I'm going to change how those guys work. But for now, birds. It's a very basic shape, an oval for the body, a circle for the head, a little point for the beak, and then triangles for the wings. You don't have to be super precise when you're doing this type of artwork. It's more about the feel of birds taking off and flying. There's a dog. My neighbor's dog outside is barking, and Tucker is hell-bent on proving that he is the superior doggy. I'm not sure what neighbor it is. It's not anyone super close. Just close enough for Tucker to hear them and be outraged. I want another birdie body over here. My chair is super old. It's creaking every time I move, and it's probably going to fall apart pretty soon here, but I love this chair so much. It's been a very good chair. Mainly because it is super low, so my feet actually touch the ground, which is nice. I've had office chairs where my feet don't touch the ground and it drives me crazy. I feel like I'm floating while I'm trying to get work done. Okay. It's okay if your birds overlap and you can't see the beak or whatever. That's okay. We're not going for super details, we're just going for the general shapes to give us some nice outlines. I am probably going to be freaking out looking for my eraser pretty soon here. I'm worried that my dog might have grabbed it and run off with it. He does that. Anything loose that's a little bit gummy, he is all over. But I'm just not seeing it anywhere. Oh, yep, there it is on the floor. Okay, we have eraser. Huzzah. Now that I have my eraser, I can fix the things that were bothering me, which is fabulous. So this piece I'm going for jewel tones. What an artist means when they say jewel tones are generally really rich colors that make you think of gemstones. They can be blue, green, purple. Usually those are the main colors, and red. It's not often people use yellow or orange to refer to jewel tones, but it's just the really rich, super saturated coloring. Nothing that's muted or faded out. Oh, there goes Tucker again. Tucker! I promise you, that dog is not going to get you. Zeus, meanwhile, could care less. He's sound asleep. I've got the space heater going, and he's just like, yep, this is my spot right here. I don't really have a particular rhyme or reason for which bird's wings are going what direction. I'm just kind of popping them in wherever it feels like it would be a good spot. This area is very empty, so I'm going to add some birdies in here. I'm trying to pay attention to the chat too in case anyone asks questions. I've been a little spacey about it the past few streams and missed questions, so I'm trying to focus a bit better so I can reply. The stream does have a delay on it though. Not too long of a delay. Just long enough to be annoying. I'm letting the bird's wings go off the page, off the edges, above and below. I don't need it perfectly centered on here. Yeah, I'm a firm believer in using the entire space for my work. Okay, we're starting to get some breaking up between the birds now. I'm doing all of the drawing of the birds in first, even though I really could just sit here and, because it's basic shapes, I could paint them all in freehand, but then I wouldn't notice when I put too much on one side until it's too late, it's there. and I'd like to be able to have a bit more control over where my little birdies are. Wings form all different types of positions, so feel free to experiment. There's no right or wrong here for what you want to do with your birdies. About halfway through, which is pretty good. Now, one thing to keep in mind is because my pencil work is so dark through here and so close together, it's going to be harder to get the jewel tones without picking up the pencil lead, even though I use an extremely hard lead that doesn't smudge easily. It's still going to be a bit difficult. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back with an eraser. Tucker, stop it. We're going to go back with an eraser and very lightly remove some of the pencil. Okay, now he's barking because my neighbor keeps hitting his key fob to lock and unlock his door, and you know how they honk when you do that. Tucker, come here. Come here. Hey, it's okay. You just chill out. You just chill out. He's a good dog. He's just a little bit overexcited about the thought that someone might be coming to the door. Which no one is, so he's going to be a disappointed puppy pretty soon here. Now I'm wanting, right now we have all the birds horizontal, so their side is to us. But the birds here are this way, so what I want to do is I want to position them so that they turn. I'm trying to see if I can get the shape right. So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to go back to my birds that are sideways. Give Tucker a little bit. He'll calm down once he realizes no one's coming over. Now what I'm doing is I'm just laying in birds that are pointed that way instead of the side to us. He's so grumpy. He's making little huffy barky sounds now. It's pretty funny. Okay. Now I need to get some 3/4 inch view of the birds. These guys can start moving a little. Tucker's so mad he's sitting in the window staring at the cars as they drive off. It's pretty funny. All he wants to do is play with people. But no one's coming over to play. And of course Zeus is asleep, and my other dog is a dog named Buddy. He's a Great Dane German short-haired pointer. He is not interested in playing. Him and Zeus both are getting a bit up in years, so they're more interested in napping than playtime. Once in a while Tucker can get Buddy to play, but it's pretty rare. Okay, so if you notice we have a ton of birds here, and we've got a lot of birds here, but this part is thinner than all the other parts, and we want to fix that. So we're going to add more birds, because that's how you fix it. Let's see, I think I have an empty space here that I don't like. I feel like these need to be spread out a bit more, so I'm just going to erase all of them so you can't get too attached to what you draw, because you may just end up just noping the whole thing right out of existence. Okay. A little bit bigger. A little bit bigger. Tucker's gonna start up again. He's pretty funny when he gets going. Now I've got this weird double line thing going on that I really don't like. So I'm gonna take this bird out. And this bird is a bit low too. Because remember, I drew my guideline on how I want this to flow. So these guys need to come down. I'll get rid of this guy. And these guys need to go up. Always keep your flow in mind. How you want the painting to move. How you want people's eyes to follow the images. This guy might need to go. In fact, I'm going to erase these two guys because I keep moving things around them. Okay. Back to our flow here. Birdie, birdie. I used to call my dad Dewey Bird. His name's Dewey. And one time we were at the park and a bird just flew over and pooped right on him. And I don't know, I think I was probably 5 or 6, so naturally that was the funniest thing I'd ever seen. Because you're not a 5-year-old unless you find being pooped on hilarious, especially when it's your parents. My dad is currently on a cruise, which is fabulous because he and his wife really spent their life taking care of me when I was younger. They never really got to go out and do things, you know, date, have a relationship minus a kid before having the full-on family. And so now they've been taking the chance to do the things that they've always wanted to do, and it's really great. So right now they are on a cruise, and they are enjoying the place, and I keep wanting to say it's around the Caribbean, but I think that's actually completely wrong. Either way, it's about time they got to have fun. They work so hard. Okay, definitely digging where this one's going now. Still have a bit of thinness through here, which I need to fix. Again, not going for ultra realistic on the birds, just enough to get the idea. Just sitting back and looking a little, seeing if I like it, if it feels a little too streamlined, which it does. So I'm gonna break things up a little bit more. I think I'll add a little bird here. And maybe one right here to kind of have it be a little uneven. Okay, we're gonna run with this, how it lays. So, eraser. This works better if you have a sharp eraser. Some of my friends have eraser sharpeners, which I think are just so nifty. I'm just trying to blur the lines a little, get rid of all the overlap where the birds overlap and they become nothing but a big old blobby shape together. That way I can be lighter with my paints to avoid having to cover up all my pencil work. Whole section right here. Okay, there were a couple of lines that I whited out a little too much, but that's okay. There we go. So now we're gonna start with the painting. I like just using a round brush. This is a number 0 round brush. Just a cheapy brand, so Doesn't matter if I scrub it. Okay, see how that has black? That's because the bristles themselves were not washed out very well last time this brush was used. There we go. Since I have all this gray here I have to cover up now, I'm going to go with a nice deep blue and blue-green to get that gray out. What I'm doing is I'm wetting the board first. The paint will only go where the board is wet. So I'm avoiding the areas I want to keep white. Just getting the board nice and wet. Now this is a really bright emerald green. I think this is Viridian actually. I'm going to have mostly green tones on this side of the board because this is where it's mostly tree. And to avoid hard edges, we keep the paper wet along the outside edges of where our paint is. That way it stays nice and textury and strange. I've got a bunch of different colors of green to play with here, so I'm going to lay down this pretty blue-green, and then I'm going to swap to this extremely light yellow-green. In fact, I think that actually is the color name, is just yellow-green. Sometimes I just splatter paint on, sometimes I just splatter water on here to get things moving. I'm using a nice teal color here to get a little bit of blues going on. You can probably see the way when I put the teal it's pushing all the other pigments away. That's just a trait of this particular pigment. When you get your watercolors, play with them, see how they interact, because some pigments will blend when you drop them down, like this green is blending into this green, and others will fight and push your base colors away. I'm going to use a little bit of blue in here because it's just a little bit too much green. This is just an ultramarine blue, but it does the same thing as the teal did, where it pushes the pre-existing color away rather than blending, which can be very nice. It can also be very annoying. This is my nice, beautiful dark green. Now, the key with doing this, with doing sections of color and then a white background, is not being afraid of the colors. You don't have to do them all pastel and make sure that they're perfect. You can really just blot in the dark colors, because it's the contrast between the white and the color that makes the piece interesting. Of course, you can do the same thing with pastels. But I really like how it looks when you have these intense darks against that beautiful light white paper. I'm just really loading my brush up with paint. I mean, it is super loaded. And I'm just kind of tapping the paint down, the pigments down, and then letting them spread out on their own however they want to, based on, you know, the water and the other pigments. You can see here the green is starting to work its way through. I'm going through and basically taking the color and keeping any connected areas connected so that they look like they're one part, one whole piece, not just a bunch of little broken up parts. I do go darker where I haven't erased a whole lot. I don't want my pencil lines to be dictating where your eye travels. I want it to all be about the color. Just love this dark green, it's so pretty. Now, normally I'm pretty messy and I you know, put droplets of paint everywhere and really just kind of have fun, but this time I'm being a bit more controlled because I really want to avoid having droplets of paint randomly in the white areas. I want to maintain that white as much as possible. Look how nice that looks, how the lights fade into the darker tones. And pull the eye into seeing the shapes that you want. And once again, we don't want any hard edges, so we are wetting the board pretty far away from where we're going to be painting, because it's all about blending, letting the paint feather out however it feels like. Almost like your paint has a mind of its own. It's just going to do its own thing. I really like these bright greens too. They're just fabulous. They don't blend very well with your middle shade greens, which is nice. They just kind of push everything away and make their own nifty shapes. I really like that. My cat is eating and all I can hear are cracking and popping sounds, because we added some hard treats in there to help keep their teeth nice and clean. And she loves those hard treats, so she's over there picking out all of the hard treats around her actual cat food. It's pretty funny to watch. She's a very independent little thing. I have a lot of pencil work inside of here, so I'm going to be darkening up these areas. See, the paint is only going where I've wet the board, so that works out pretty well. Granted, you can accidentally take it a bit further out of where you want it to be, especially when using a chunky brush like this one, but for the most part it works out pretty well. Just trying to give these guys a little bit of difference in color, shape. Now what I want to do color-wise is I want to slowly take these greens, start turning them into blues and then purples. I have these left to do it in. So what I'll be doing is I'm going to finish up these clumped birds in the greens. And there goes my neighbor, locking his car and freaking Tucker out again. one of these days Tucker will realize that that's not a threat he has to protect us from. This is a super dark green, and it's not blending very well because it's not very wet. Tucker, chill out. But I do like the tones of it, so I'm gonna bear with the lack of blending and push it around till it does what I want it to do. Not too bad, we're making pretty good progress on this. So, I'm going to swap to a smaller brush. I have to be careful because some of my small brushes that look like they're going to be awesome for it are actually liner brushes, and they will not work for what I want to do. I have a lot of liner brushes out today. I must have been doing line work last night. I can't remember what I was doing. Okay, so I'm swapping colors, and I'm picking up this really pretty cerulean blue. Looks a bit darker on my camera than it actually is, but it's a really pretty light blue. I'm going somewhere in the middle here, picking one of these birds, and I'm just going to color it in with blue. And then I'm going to pick up this color right here, which is, this is lavender, I think. I have lavender and wisteria, and I think this one's wisteria. So this is just a beautiful light purple. That I'm going to use to give this a bit of color change. So it's not just the blue. Keep using my green water. I'm picking up the lavender again, and I'm using it on this bird. That was Zeus sneezing. I don't know if it was picked up, but... And with this bird, I've done mostly lavender, and then I'm going to go back with a bit of the blue to give it a little bit of blue blending. Now with this bird, I'm going to take my cerulean blue, get it a bit dark, and I'm going to lay it down. And then I'm going to take this color. This is a beautiful teal. It's not quite blue, not quite green. But it's a lovely color. I'm going to put that there. And then I'm going to take the teal and immediately go to the bird behind. Give it some pretty teal. And actually I'm going to do that to the bird down here as well. Then I'll go back to my cerulean blue and give it a little bit of blue tints here and there towards the front of their bodies. And then once more to the teal. And I'm going to color in this bird and this bird. And why not, we'll do this bird too. Tucker! Now Tucker and Zeus are both looking out the window. I'm not sure what they're barking at though. Something's pissed them off. Normally I'd tell them to be quiet, but My voice isn't doing so great today, so... Hey, chill out. Tuck, come on. Good boy. And then we're going to take a little bit of that Viridian green. Just a little bit. Because it's going to blend out very fast into these blues. And we still want it to feel mostly blue. I'm going to try lifting this up to see if you can get a better view of the colors. You can see the purpley blues going into the blue greens. I love this camera, but it doesn't pick up blue very well. Most cameras don't, sadly. Blue is one of the banes of printing and color work in general. Okay. Now I'm backing up over here because I want some more greens over on this side. Then I'm back to my big blurry mess of birds, which are basically all part bird, part tree. We don't know, but they're all overlapping, so... Just want to make sure everything has a lot of tonal changes in it. I don't want it to be flat one color. I want to have each bird to have multiple colors happening. A bit of green over here. A lot of green over here. Gonna get some of this bright yellow green because I think I need some brighter areas. I think I'll do these guys. Again, I'm not following any particular plan. I'm just kind of going with whatever the paints decide to do. If they're blending, if they're not, you know, just kind of rolling with it. Okay. Let's go back to our Viridian. We've got some nice green blues happening over here that I really like. I think I want to play with some more. This is an extremely dark green that I'm laying down right here. Because it's so dark, I'm just putting a little dot of the pigment down, and then I'm taking my brush and going back and pushing it around. That way it doesn't become completely black and doesn't overwhelm the painting. I do want a little bit more though, because I do like this color quite a bit. It's very pretty, very rich. It's almost an emerald tone. Unfortunately, my palettes are so mixed together that half the time I don't even know what color, because it's just all clumped together. I get a vague idea, but as far as naming specifics, you got me. This is my green palette, greens and blues. So you can see they're all pretty well mixed, whereas this palette's a little bit more controlled, and paid a little bit more attention to what's going on with that palette. So I've decided that these guys are a little bit too yellow-green, so I'm just taking it to a little bit more of a blue-green shade through here. Zeus. Tucker, hey. Tucker. I would put him out of the room, but then he'll start barking outside the room non-stop until I let him back in. Neither he nor Zeus do very well in a room separate from me. So, very sorry for how noisy they're being today. I'm gonna swap over to that pretty wisteria that I pointed out. Now this wisteria is really more of a pink than it is a purple. So I'm not going to be using it by itself. I'm using it more as kind of a bit of a tonal shift. So I put in that wisteria, then I pick up my lavender and go back through with the lavender. And all it's doing is giving my lavender color a little bit of a reddish hint to it, so it's not blue like these guys. So that when I swap over to actual purples, it works and it reads fine. Which, I'll pick up an actual purple and put it over here. Maybe add a little bit in here, just because they're a little bit too uniformly one color. There we go. Yes, I still have birds over here to paint, but I've swapped over just so I can have a little fun with my purples. These birds are so far away that you're really not seeing anything except for the little V or W shapes that you do when you're messing around. Tucker. Seriously, dude? is so mad today. And I can see outside, and I am not seeing much of anything for him to be barking at, but he's on one. Now he's barking at the wall. Tucker, knock it off. Ugh, I keep putting this in the green paint. I don't want it in the green paint. Okay, I'm going to take a little bit of this really intense blue color because I want a little more blues in here. This looks like it's an ultramarine blue. Which is a very beautiful rich blue. I love it. Oh, someone's walking past. Tucker! Oh. Hey, cut it out. I have my window open to Tucker. Okay, give me just 1 minute. I will be back shortly. I am going to deal with the dogs. Okay, hopefully the sound is on again. Just went and put the dogs out. I'm gonna take a risk that they'll at least sound quieter when they're in the other room. Tucker's just on one today. I think I say that every day though. Just doing a little lavender and blue. Now we're doing the greens so we can finish off these birdies. What I did there is I put too much of this green down, so I lifted it. I got my brush wet and lifted some of the color up, and then just moved it over to some other areas. Which is pretty handy when you want to keep with the same color, but you want it lighter, or you want to pick up a little of a color somewhere and bring it over. I have the sound of music stuck in my head today, which is really obnoxious because I don't actually know the words to it, so it's basically the same line over and over and over again in my head. It's very frustrating. Okay. Got a couple areas through here. I'm going to change up the colors a little bit. A little bit of shading. And we're back to our greens. Do, 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 do. very careful. I dropped a little bit of water there, and I don't want it to turn into a spot of color. Just remember, I'm trying to keep the background extremely white so that just the birds are colored. Okay. Now I'm going back and I'm picking up random colors like that cerulean blue, and I'm just adding little bits of it here and there on the birds that are back here to give them a sudden shock of a different color mixed in with the colors you're expecting. The nice thing about the both the teal and the cerulean blue is that they're both slightly opaque. They're not completely opaque, but they do have more opacity than most watercolors do. So when you lay them on top of another color, you can actually pile it on fairly thick, surprisingly thick, and the lighter color will show stronger than the darker color, which is useful in some situations, like this one. A little bit of blues back here. That's pretty good. And we are done, except for erasing a couple of stray lines here and there, which, be careful, you don't want to be rubbing your eraser over wet paint. You will regret it. I am basically erasing where I know it's already dried. Oh. Okay, this just has to dry and this piece is done. Now my lighting isn't so great in here, so when I take the better picture you'll be able to see all the different color shifts happening. But that is one piece down, so I'm going to take a break from streaming for a bit, and hopefully I'll be on later today to work on another piece.